This is for the Greenways Blueways and Trails Master Plan. In 2004, the Recreation Department had put together a master plan for greenways, although at that time it was not adopted by the City Commission. We've taken that original plan and we've updated it and we've expanded it for connectivity throughout the city and the region and even the state. First, I would like to recognize some of the dignitaries in the room. Mayor Jerry Taylor. Our Vice Mayor, Joe Casello. City Commissioner Mike Fitzpatrick. And CRA Board Member Woodrow Hay. Thank you all for coming out. The maps on each of the table are broken up into different quadrants of the city so that you could comfortably sit around the map of your area of the city. So I encourage everyone to take a seat around the tables. And at this point, I would like to introduce our consultants, Kimley Horn, Mr. Stuart Robertson.
Thank you very much. I would like to echo Carice in welcoming everyone to the meeting, but also thanking you so much for coming out and spending your Thursday evening with us to search for ways that we can create a plan for improving the walkability and bikeability for Boynton Beach. There's already so many exciting and fascinating projects that are going on with the city that are going to improve the conditions for making a more bicycle-friendly and walk-friendly community. And this project is really about picking up from that foundation that is currently being laid and creating a plan for moving forward into the future to continue to improve the conditions for bicycling and walking. So when you came in, hopefully you all got 3 dots from Lisa, who's at the sign-in sheet. If you didn't, she can pass those out. But before the end of the night, we just hope that you would come and place the dots on our infrastructure board here. This is just for us to kind of it's a tool for us to analyze what the meeting attendees feel like are potential priorities for different types of infrastructure, because there are different ways of providing bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. I'm going to talk in the presentation about what some of those ways are, as well as relate those to City of Boynton Beach opportunities as well. We've got what we call storyboards along this wall over here, which I saw many of you reading, and that's just a way of becoming acclimated with the project and what the scope is of what we're looking at. And then right here are some preliminary ideas that we have put together for potential locations of the bike lanes, the pedestrian walking paths, the bike paths beside the road, things like that are all right here. You can come and take a look at that. And many of you are gathered around the tables. Each of the tables has an aerial map that is really meant to be a canvas board for you to provide any additional ideas that you would like to see us analyze for potential incorporation into the plan. So please feel free to draw on those boards. They are set up by geographic area. And basically, if you are looking toward the front of the room, that's north. North is up. The northwest area is right up here closest to me. The central area in the middle, and the south area toward the back of the room. If you have any questions, though, feel free to ask me or Lisa if you're looking for a particular area that you would like to give us some ideas or information on. Please also feel free to partake of some of the refreshments that the city have provided for us at our meeting here tonight. And without any further ado, I'm going to move into some of the items here in the presentation to kind of give us a little bit of a picture show of what we're talking about. Ma'am? Oh. great question. Thank you so much for asking that. They don't. It's really meant to just be different types of colors for you to use. If you want to write on them like sidewalk on the line that you're drawing, feel free to do that, or bike, or B for bike, or something like that. But no, there is no color scheme per se. So yes, we are here at the public workshop the night of Thursday, August 20th at the library. This is our meeting to kind of present some of our preliminary ideas, but moreover to dialogue with the public and get your thoughts and ideas of what you would like to see incorporated into the project. The overall goal of this project, as you've seen on some of the boards that we have, is to enhance the multimodal, which just means all modes of transportation, not only focusing on automobiles, but looking at all modes of transportation, particularly the non-motorized transportation, which is walking and bicycling and rollerblading, things like that, or things that we call active transportation, which is the first of our storyboards over there. Enhancing that within the city will lead to a number of different positive outcomes, including mobility options for people, where they could choose to walk or bike on a certain trip if they wanted to, without necessarily being tied only to the automobile. The potential for additional tourism or ecotourism with some of the paddling trails or some of the walking trails that could be provided, outdoor education opportunities, certainly recreation, even some things like the health benefits of walking and biking, promoting that within the city can help to solve more than just transportation challenges, but can actually help to improve the overall health of the citizenry, because studies have shown that active transportation is a great way of addressing some chronic disease issues such as heart disease or hypertension. Some of the chronic illnesses that are associated with modern society can be addressed through physical activity, and incorporating physical activity with transportation is one of the real exciting things I think that's going on in the transportation field right now. And so some of the objectives that we have to try to help meet that goal essentially is to identify a network of walking and bicycling paths through the city that can help achieve those objectives. We're going to be providing recommendations for things like the design guidelines, mapping, parking, funding, things like that, creating detailed action items that outline the way that we're going to be able to achieve that. And then finally, certainly we want to address the diversity of users through something we call complete streets, which is providing the ability for all users, regardless of age or ability, to choose any mode of transportation and try to facilitate that within the plan. We're building from a plan that Carice mentioned, which was the 2004 Trails Plan. It primarily looked at recreational trails. We're expanding upon that to include public streets as well for things like on-road bike lanes and sidewalks, but certainly this can serve as kind of a base for the work that we're doing. I want to talk a little bit about building upon work that's going on at more of a county or regional level. Palm Beach County, through the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO, has developed a bikeway plan that we have looked at and we have evaluated as input as part of this project. The Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, or TCRPC, is also looking at a regional plan of hiking and bicycling trails that include projects right here within Boynton Beach. And this slide highlights two of those, or the two that they've identified, which are the Boynton-Lawrence corridor and the connection over to our Tri-Rail station near Quantum and Gateway. I want to talk a little bit about some of the existing facilities that we're going to build from as part of the project. This is an image of the Palmetto Greenway Linear Park along the south side of the Stanley Weaver Canal. It is a facility that has been built along a canal trail providing walking and bicycling opportunities there. We want to try to expand that type of facility to other areas. There are also examples such as this near Colusa Park, where a neighborhood on the north side of Colusa has been connected to the park, really shortening the distance that people would need to walk or ride their bike in order to access the park. This is a great example of providing kind of a shortcut for pedestrians that really incentivizes walking to the park, because to get there in a car, you have to go all the way around onto Congress and come down to Colusa Park that way. And so this is a great way to better connect neighborhoods on foot or by bicycle. There are some existing bike routes that have been designated. This was part of a county initiative from many years ago, but some of these signs still exist. They're basically some on-road bike facilities. We have mapped those and identified some potential improvements to those facilities to help make them more walkable and bikeable, but that's another sort of foundation that we have to build from. Some of you may know that our US 1 section was one of the first sections, or the first section within all of the local FDOT district to have what's called a buffered bike lane, where the bike lane itself actually has a little bit of additional separation from the moving car traffic through this painted buffer right here. That was done a number of years ago, and buffered bike lanes are now the standard bike lane facility for the Florida Department of Transportation. There are a few existing crosswalks like the one that you see here across Seacrest. Our map that we have right here identifies some additional ones. This asterisk for proposed safe crossing means trying to build more facilities like that at places where people need to be able to cross the street in a safe way. And having this median right here is one of the most important things to do to be able to facilitate safe crossings. It's called a refuge, where people can essentially cross one direction at a time. And speaking of that, this is a location where we might want to see an improvement like that, giving people a chance to cross from the west side of the Palmetto Greens Linear Park over to the east side. So this is an opportunity to apply that safe crossing improvement to a location here in the city. There's also potential locations along our canal rights of way, especially the South Florida Water Management District canals, to provide a potential walking and bicycling path through a right-of-way like this. And there's a process that's been established with the Water Management District to permit such a facility as that. And many communities are already doing that. And in fact, the Palmetto Greens Linear Park is an example of that type of facility. So areas that we have looked at to include more of these types of facilities are found right here on the maroon line that's called Proposed Shared Use Path. We're looking for connecting to existing parks and preserves, such as our scrub areas. This is the Seacrest Scrub in the southern part of the city along Seacrest Boulevard. And potentially opportunities to widen certain roadways to provide on-road bicycle lanes, although we also have to make sure that we're accounting for having the proper drainage in the roadway as well, because right now this space right here is serving as a swale to help drain the roadway, so we have to take those types of things into account as well. I want to talk a little bit about complete streets, because this is kind of the direction that the project is headed, is as I mentioned, providing facilities for all users and abilities. It also, one of the great things about complete streets is that the street is designed in such a way that it's not just there to move cars, but it's to move people. And the way we say that is mobility is a means, not an end, when it comes to complete streets. It also helps enhance the safety of the street as well by providing those facilities for activities such as walking and bicycling. It helps to enhance the safety for all users. In Florida, as a state, not just Boynton Beach, but the whole state of Florida is known as an area that can be dangerous for pedestrians and bicyclists because we have some of the worst safety rates when it comes to crashes. And so projects like this can help to improve those rates for our state and make Florida more walkable and bikeable. This is a list of some of the primary tools that we have for street design to make them more safe for bicycling and walking. I'm not going to go through this whole list, but I do want to show some images of some of the primary ones, the facilities that we're most looking at for this particular project. It's very similar to what you see here with the pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure elements board. So if you haven't yet voted for your favorites right there, you may want to pay attention to this section and get some potential ideas. The first type of facility are bike lanes. We have some proposed bike lanes recommended as the blue line, such as along the Quantum area, Seacrest Boulevard, we've identified as this blue line for bike lanes. But this is essentially what that would look like. It would be designated space on the roadway for bicyclists to travel. Bike lanes do come in all different types of shapes and sizes. You see some that are conventional bike lanes, such as the one here. You can also have buffers like the one that we have on US 1. And sometimes they're even painted green through the use of green color asphalt to designate the space of the bike lane. It also provides a little bit of additional conspicuity for the motorists to identify that space and to potentially give them that little bit of extra reminder to watch out for bicyclists when they're traveling on the roadway. The next type of facility is called Neighborhood Greenway. Neighborhood greenways are the pink lines that we have drawn on this preliminary route map. So those pink ones would look like this. Essentially, those are streets that are meant to be low volume, low speed type of streets already, where we wouldn't necessarily need to build a separate path or a separate sidewalk because most cyclists feel comfortable riding in the road already. These tend to be more like your neighborhood streets, especially those streets that might have a nice tree canopy that are shaded, where people can ride their bikes along the street. And they can be designated through signage or pavement markings rather than having to tear up some of the grass and build additional asphalt or sidewalks, because we do want to try to make sure that we're maximizing green space as part of this project as well. So that's what a neighborhood greenway would be. A multi-use trail or shared use path just means that it's shared between pedestrians and bicyclists. So walking and bicycling would occur on the same pathway, and these tend to be in areas along roadways or in an area along a canal such as this. In the canal one, you probably will find a sparser usage or maybe more bicycling usage for longer distance trips. But either way, they're sort of the off-road path or the off-road alternative to the bike lanes and the neighborhood greenways. This is an example here of a shared use path along a South Florida Water Management District canal that's been recently implemented in Miami-Dade County. And so one of those we've looked at along the Stanley Weaver Canal as well, which is this blue line right here across the middle of the map. I mentioned buffered bike lanes. FDOT has a new standard, design standard for providing that buffer. And so all new bike lanes built on state highways would have this type of a facility. US 1 is an example. Boynton Beach Boulevard is another example of a state roadway through our city. Then a higher level on-road facility is called the cycle track. This is where the bike lane is not just separated with paint, but separated with some type of a physical barrier. It could be curbing or even on-street parking, and the bicycles ride next to the curb between the parked cars and the sidewalks. This is typically applied in a downtown core type of setting. Sidewalk design is very important. not just laying out this sidewalk as sort of the leftover space on the side of the road, but there are actually good design and planning principles for how to provide it. And those include providing trees next to the roadway to help shield and separate the pedestrians, but also to provide shade for the pedestrians. And these two images here give you kind of an example of streets that have been built to the good sidewalk design principles. And so we would want for future sidewalks to have this type of amenity, especially again in sort of the downtown type of setting. Interactive flashing beacons can be added to crosswalks to help users cross the street. They can essentially press a button to create a flashing light to warn motorists that they're getting ready to cross. And we have an example of an interactive flashing beacon right here on our elements map. But it's just a way of enhancing the crossing experience. This is another example of actually providing a traffic signal at some of the higher volume streets that would go red when a pedestrian presses the button to actually stop the cars to allow the pedestrian to cross. There are ways of designing crosswalks that signal the crossing activity to the motorists as well, such as through textured pavement in these two examples. Providing the median is very important because it gives people that refuge in the middle of the road to help them cross the street. And extending the curbs through things like curb extensions. It shortens the distance that pedestrians have to cross the street. It also increases their visibility, which is very important for safety. Gets them out closer to the location where they're going to be crossing the traffic, and that increases their visibility with motorists. Median islands are important not just for crosswalks, but potentially at intersections or roundabouts as well. So providing that pedestrian refuge. Lighting is something that could be included on some of these projects. It's probably not going to be included on all of them because lighting can be quite costly, but in important places like crosswalks and bus shelters, it would be important to include lighting as a design element. And on-street parking for the urbanized areas helps to actually promote a walkable environment. If you have good on-street parking, then it gives people a place that they can get out of their car and walk around within a downtown type setting. Shading and trees could potentially be a component of some of these projects in order to help improve walkability. Bus shelters we would potentially could include at some of the higher volume bus shelters, having a space that people could get out of the way of the weather more than just having kind of a sign with a pole on the side of the road. And then another example of an implementation strategy is called a road diet. In a road diet, this concept is where you could potentially start out with, say, a 4-lane road and reduce the number of lanes for cars maybe to 3 in this example in order to reallocate space for other types of amenities. In the example that's shown right here, that space has been reallocated to provide bike lanes in each direction. This diagram right here is a proposal for a street that used to be 4 lanes, essentially 2 lanes in each direction. There was a lane for cars here and a lane for cars here. And the proposal was to remove one of the lanes and provide on-street parking, which creates a more walkable environment, and a bike lane. So a road diet is kind of a potential implementation strategy that could be used to develop some of these projects. We're also including Blueways in this project and incorporating our paddling trails into the project as well, because there's a lot of synthesis. We're connecting to parks with our bike trails, and we want to provide canoe and kayak launches at those parks for paddling. And so we're incorporating the idea of Blueways into the project. And at some very special locations, like the larger parks, maybe like Calusa, having Trailhead, which is a gathering space. It could include shelters, probably also includes signage that maybe gives people a map of what the bicycle trail network looks like, so they can kind of see where they can go on the network. So a trailhead is a location where you would have that type of gathering space. And you ideally would like to locate these in places where you already may have facilities available, such as restrooms and water fountains, so that people can have that space that they can take a break from their walking and bicycling as well. So areas like the larger parks, areas near the downtown, you would want to provide that. And lastly, when it comes to the potential for the FEC Railroad, or Florida East Coast Railway, there is a regional project that is kind of a conceptual idea right now. But as the railroad kind of becomes more used for passenger trains, especially in the future if the Tri-Rail Coastal Link project comes through, there would be more of a commuter rail type service on the FEC. And so there would be the need to actually have pedestrians and bicyclists be able to access the stations. And one of the ideas that has been talked about is the potential for a station right here in downtown Boynton. And so the regional agencies have identified a potential of having what's called a rail with trail. This is from the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council's project. And so it could be providing a path along the railroad in addition to the passenger trains to help funnel the users toward the stations, but also could provide mobility for the areas along the corridor as well. So we're incorporating that idea or bringing it forward into our project, and that's basically the shared use path that we show along the FEC Railroad. That's just sort of incorporating that regional project into our map for Boynton Beach. So I just want to kind of wrap up this section of the presentation by listing a couple of our design principles. These are the things that we're wanting to portray with the project. And that's that good street design starts with a human scale approach, which maybe modifies the way that things had been done in the past, which was looking more at the car capacity and traffic capacity as the design principle. And also, good street design can help to create good public spaces where people can enjoy the right-of-way, such as right here, where you see someone is actually choosing to write in their diary or compose poetry, whatever it is that she's doing, right on this lovely street right-of-way where you have nice trees, probably slow-moving cars. It looks like a very comfortable type of environment to be in. So we want to help to create those great public spaces through this project. And so I'm just going to finish with this graph right here, which is the exact same thing as the map you see here. It's the preliminary ideas that we have developed through our research and studying of the area. And this is where I would like for you all to think about ideas that you have for the areas of the city that you think are important for walking and biking. And again, feel free to just write those down on the boards that you have on your tables, or come to us, one of the project team representatives, and we can talk about some of your ideas or mark up the map that we have up here as well. We also have comment cards. Lisa has some in the back. If you would rather make your comments on a form like that, you can do that and give it to one of the project team representatives, either me or Lisa, if you want to make your comments that way. Thank you again for coming out to our meeting. I look forward to continuing the meeting by coming to the different tables, and you can ask us any questions if you have about the areas, and we'll try to help you mark up the maps. But now comes the fun part. We'll actually get to start marking up maps and things like that. So thank you so much for coming tonight.